Welcome back to another edition. I'm going to talk on something that I actually have talked about before on the podcast, and that's couples and money. And talking about couples and money is not a one and done deal any more than talking about individuals and money is a one and done deal. It's a really big deal. Um, Financial issues are in the top five areas that couples therapists run into all the time. And any couple, whether married or not married, if you have a partner, money is going to touch that partnership. There's no way around it. Occasionally, my wife and I have watched some of these reality, I suppose they're reality marriage shows, or where either they're dating blindly. I think it's called Love is Blind. Another one is, I believe it's Marriage at First Sight. And I've always been astounded in watching some of these, how little that money is in the discussion. And oftentimes it doesn't come up until after the couple is actually married. And that's true to life, isn't it? And what a shame. Because we are pushing under the rug one of the biggest potentials for conflict in a marriage, and it will come up. A lot of couples are under the illusion that they have financial intimacy, or their money is not an issue in their marriage. And it's true for some, it isn't, but I would suggest to you it's the minority. And I've had a podcast on this. I think I called it Faux Financial Intimacy. And that's where there's no tension or conflict in the marriage because the couple avoids talking about money. Or if one talks about it, the other just acquiesces or remains silent. And so there could be this illusion of no issues around money. But that isn't the case. Usually the lack of openness stems from one partner's past experiences of having their opinions disregarded, minimized, invalidated, the fear of conflict. The list is long. So just to underscore, the financial intimacy is an essential aspect of a healthy romantic relationship, even though money doesn't feel very romantic. But the lack of intimacy around money will eventually erode the romantic intimacy. So it's the typical thing of where we can kick the can down the road, but at some point in time, it's going to come back and bite us. So financial intimacy, like a lot of intimacy, starts with really being honest, sharing financial information with one another, and more importantly, sharing feelings, beliefs, behaviors around money. So in the words of Brené Brown, there can't be intimacy, and I would suggest even financial intimacy, without vulnerability, right? It's about being honest with how we feel, about our fears about what we need, and asking for what we need. Okay, so where do you go from there? if you and your partner are having reoccurring conflicts, where do you go? And oftentimes, if it's bad enough, a couple will go seek out couples therapy, and that can be helpful. Definitely can be helpful because it's not about the money. Couples' money clashes are not about the money. It's about the money scripts that the parts of us carry, and it's about clashing parts of ourselves with our partner around our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about money. But another place that this comes out is in the financial planner's office. And many people will go to a financial planner rather than a therapist to try and resolve money issues. The problem is, and I'm laughing, is therapists aren't equipped to understand financial issues, and financial planners aren't equipped to understand relational issues. So while we can get help from one or the other, it might be, what do I want to say, more of a mistake. That's a little strong, or an anomaly than a strategic plan on behalf of the professional to help folks. And I'm being a little heavy with that statement, and I realize that. But what I want to say is that the last thing that financial planners are trained in, and in many cases even wanting to be, is a therapist for couples. A financial planner's training focuses on strategies for building wealth, retirement planning, asset allocation, the betas, the alphas, and I'm estate planning and taxes. It's very technical training. Facilitating disagreements around money is typically not on the list of things that financial planners are trained in. Now, I know this is starting to shift. Your master's programs are starting to focus more on behavioral issues. There are certificates in financial life planning that are starting to address this. And yet, I don't know yet of a graduate degree or a financial planning program that would reserve a semester or several semesters to helping couples negotiate issues. And yet, couples make up a substantial chunk of a financial planner's clientele. I've had students in my course on facilitating financial health go through the section we have on couples, which is just 1 week, maybe 2, and state at the end of the course, I think I'm going to limit my practice to individuals. And we more surface the challenges of working with couples, not so much really practice and help and training and education and how to be with a couple during those disagreements. And yet you can ask any financial planner, have you ever witnessed a couple with marital disagreements around money? I would be astounded if you found anybody that would say no, unless they have never worked with a couple. So I have told you before that a few years ago I got pretty curious about this. And it was during the pandemic and during the time that I wasn't traveling, and I was focusing my extra time on gaining new skills. And one of those was in internal family systems, where I became certified. And another was in um, couples um, couples counseling. I actually took 3 courses that were meant for therapists in how to do couples counseling. And I will tell you that, first of all, I was scared to death, or certainly a part of me was scared to death, which I think this is one of the biggest reasons that financial planners aren't trained. I think it's because of fear. And when you look at the list of reasons that financial planners may not want to work with couples, things that come up is I'm not qualified, I could cross the line and cause harm, I could lose clients if I did that, this would be a change in what I do, I'd have to gain more knowledge. This is kind of financial therapy like, and it's just a fad. Or this whole thing is just really unknown. It's kind of scary. And if you take that all apart and you look at the cognitive biases behind every statement I just made, losing clients, being sued, changed, you find modesty bias, negativity bias, loss aversion, status quo bias, normalcy bias. And then when you take a look and go into those biases and look at the emotions in each one of them, fear is in every one of them. Insecurity, anxiety, it's full of difficult emotions. So this is a huge reason, I think, that the financial planning profession just doesn't even want to go there. Is the financial planning profession is made up of people. And this can be pretty scary stuff. But that doesn't erase the fact that 69% of people that have partners report disagreements. And spending priorities are huge. Making purchases without prior disclosure is huge. This is a big deal. So this is where I thought some insights on being with couples. And like I said, I was scared to death of this. And what I found out in this training is that therapists are scared to death of it too. Why? Because it can bring up so much unfinished business, so much stuff from our past and from our current relationships, that this is called countertransference in the psychological world. And that's where it is, hey, I have so many issues around this, I can't sit with you and your issues. Now, they may not even be conscious of that, but that's what's going on. I don't want to put myself in that environment. What surprised me about this training was that half of the training was role play, was being the client, being an observer, being the therapist, and over and over and over again, role playing using some of their techniques, and being watched and being evaluated on how you were doing. That's enough to cause fear in almost anybody. But that's how they train. The number one thing that is stressed, and at least the training I did, which was intimacy from the inside out, was you've got to work on yourself first. You've got to address your own fears around this first, if you're going to be able to sit with and help couples. So this is something to think about. And I'm talking to mostly you as a consumer, as a couple looking for a financial planner or needing help in this area. And then, of course, I'm also, as a byproduct, talking to financial planners here. When you're looking for a financial planner, is it even on your list, even in your consciousness of what expertise do you have in working with couples? And that's probably not a great question to ask, because I think most planners will say, well, a lot, that's all I work with. But that's not what you're wanting to find out. What you really want to know is, what expertise do they have in training and strategies to help couples negotiate these explosive issues, or what certainly can be explosive issues in their relationship. So this is something worth exploring with a planner. And you might have to look a lot to find a planner that has some expertise in this. And it's a little bit hard to judge that. And there's planners that can do this, can really be with couples and help them, that don't have specific training. And this would be because just of who they are, that the special circumstances in their lives and their personalities really lend them to doing this type of work. But I would suggest that is a small fraction of planners. Most planners, like myself, who are left brain, have very well developed left hemispheres of their brain, need a lot of intentional introspection and training to be able to quote, hold the space, end quote, or actually be in the room with a couple that is having a disagreement in a productive way. Of course, you can sit there. I've written, I think it was in Facilitating Financial Health, about a couple that was in my room, in my office, and they just had a knockdown, drag-out fight. And I sat there just paralyzed. And at one point in time, toward the end, the wife turned to me and said, I didn't need a witness here, I needed an advocate. And that statement alone we could unpack, but I was just frozen. And that's not helpful, because a lot of couples have asked me, why is the only place we fight about money in your office? And I've said, where else do you talk about money? So here's some things that you might think about assessing with a planner. And like I said, you need to somehow assess their training in working with couples. And again, asking, do you work with couples regularly, isn't going to get you what you want. You might consider asking them, do you have any specific training for working with couples? And probably, I attended a workshop for an hour and a half at a conference is not necessarily the training that you're looking for. You want to know whether that planner really understands the interpersonal dynamics that come up when two people are discussing money. You want to know if they've had some formal training, maybe a semester in formal training from a university might help. Probably even a year's worth of training where they practiced working with a couple having disputes, where they learned things to do in conflict resolution. So that's the information that you really want to focus on, is some real true to life training. A second thing is you might try and ascertain whether they focus on each partner. The advisor that you're looking for is going to make sure that each partner feels equally included in the planning process. And it can be a real red flag if an advisor spends most of the session talking to one partner, or if they focus on the person that earns more, or if they pair, that is, kind of take the side of the partner that they agree with the most. And this is a big thing for financial planners, because when you're focused on there's a right and wrong money decision, and usually there is a technically right or wrong financial component in many decisions, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right decision for that couple. And so this requires the financial planner to be able to step out of their bias, to step out of their judgment, and focus on you as each partner. So a skilled advisor is going to be engaged and listen to both partner. And this is something you can assess when you're interviewing a financial planner. You want to look and see if they can share emphasis on different goals and values of each partner. And by this I mean if a financial plan ignores one partner's values, that's going to be a source of conflict later. So does the planner work well with the couple, spending time asking each partner about their values, beliefs? Oftentimes there's a partner that's not speaking up. That partner might actually have fear about speaking up. And this takes some skill, some awareness to help this partner to feel heard. So that's an important skill. Another skill that's important are conflict resolution skills. So how would you determine this? Again, if they've had training, they've probably had training in conflict resolution, but ask the advisors how they handle disagreements between client couples. You can say, if we get engaged with each other, what are you going to be listening for? What will be your behavior? What's your strategy in helping us through those conflicts? And typically they're going to have some strategies. They could even come out and name those strategies. For example, they could say, well, I will help you track the disagreement. I will interrupt you once I have a pretty clear idea of what's going on. And I will help you focus on yourself rather than your partner. And these are called U-turns. What's going on in you? Because typically we're focused if the other person would change, then everything will be okay. I can help you engage in courageous conversations and help create a safe environment where both of you can speak your mind in a gentle, respectful type of way. These are just some of the things that they could say, and there's other techniques and strategies. And another thing you want to be looking for is, do they encourage a shared vision? So the best financial planners are going to help you create a vision that respects each other's priorities, and that can feel authentic for both of you. And so this is negotiating polarizations. That's something we've talked about in IFS. That happens a lot. We have parts. One wants to do this, one wants to do that, one wants to spend, one wants to save. Well, it's not unusual with people, right? With partners, where you have a spender, you have a saver. The planner needs to have a way of helping the couple see that oftentimes they're wanting the same thing, but they're coming out in different ways to get their needs met. The saver has a need for safety and security, possibly. The spender has a need for experiences and connection. So the planner needs to have some tools to help people see this. One of the tools that I like a lot is the Enneagram, and the Enneagram for couples. So my whole point here is financial planning for couples requires a lot more than just the dollars and cents, the technical expertise. There needs to be a skill set that helps the advisor facilitate the relationship between two people's financial histories. You have partner A, you have partner B, and then you have the relationship, which is the third entity in the room. So this can be complicated. It can be so complicated that many therapists do not do couples therapy, couples counseling. Regardless, I don't see how a financial planner gets around this. I think it's important at the very least that a planner that does not want to engage, has no skills to help couples engage, has somebody on their staff that can be helpful, or has a financial therapist that also works with couples that they can bring in as part of the team. So my whole point of this is, if you and your partner are seeking a financial planner, and even if you're not having money issues, I would suggest looking for somebody with experience in working with couples, that has some training in working with couples, that has relational awareness, that exhibits deep listening skills that go beyond the numbers. And asking the right questions and watching for these qualities can help you find a planner with the empathy and the skills and the courage necessary to really support your journey, to support you in moving toward financial well-being as a couple. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to being with you next time. Take care.